Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I will talk about the movie named Pacific Rim Uprising. 10 years ago, humans were attacked by giant monsters called Kajus when a portal was opened by aliens called the Precursors. Humanity was forced to build giant machines called Jaegers to protect mankind. In the final battle, a pilot named Staker blew up his own Jaeger to close the portal and stop the war. Unlike his father, Jake Pentecost is a petty thief who steals Jaeger technology. When he makes it into the heart of the machine, he realizes that the power core is missing. Luckily, Jake is able to trace the signals and evade the police, eventually arriving inside an abandoned factory where he sees a miniature Jaeger. He is attacked by a young girl named Amara. Jake is overjoyed and plans to sell everything there, but they are quickly interrupted by the police. Amara immediately runs into her Jaeger that she names Scrapper, but Jake also climbs into the robot, demanding to be the pilot instead. The girl refuses to listen and breaks out of the building. However, they are interrupted by a massive Jaeger named November Ajax, who demands that they surrender immediately. Amara raises her hands and appears to give up, but fires multiple smoke grenades and escapes in the smoke, but the power of their Jaeger drops quickly, and soon are tased by the Jaeger. They are taken into his cell and Jake is offered to meet an officer, who turns out to be Mako, his adopted sister. She is very disappointed in Jake for his behavior and reveals that he used to be a pilot for the Jaegers but quit and chose to be a criminal instead. To avoid prison, Mako offers Jake a final choice to return to the academy so that he can help train the younger generations, including Amara. They arrive at the piloting school on a remote island in China, and they meet Lambert. They are amazed by the collection of Jaegers in the facility, including Titan Redeemer, Bracer Phoenix, Saber Athena, and Gypsy Avenger, which belongs to Lambert. Amara meets her teammates that she'll be training together with, but has a hard time being accepted. Her training also goes very poorly as she continuously gets defeated in the simulations. At the same time, the owner of Xiao Industries, Li Wen, arrives at the base, along with Mako and their scientist, Dr. Newton. They present their new inventions, automated Jaegers that can be deployed much faster than the ones with humans inside. This would also skip the tedious processes of training pilots. However, many are not happy with their proposal. Mako is also very skeptical about this new technology as it's vulnerable to hackers. This is why she plans to vote against it in the council summit, and she wants her brother to accompany her as well. Soon, they arrive at the summit in Australia, and Gypsy Avenger is brought with Jake and Lambert inside as the pilots. The planes drop the giant machine right in front of the protesters. Mako arrives as well inside a helicopter, but they begin to sense that something is wrong. Suddenly, a large Jaeger called Obsidian Fury jumps out from the ocean and rushes towards land. The rogue machine shoots directly at the Gypsy Avenger, but Jake is able to dodge the attack. At the same time, Mako discovers something familiar about the enemy's power signature and tries to warn Jake, but Obsidian Fury jams the signals nearby. Obsidian Fury continues to pummel Gypsy as it throws the Jaeger around like a ragdoll, crashing the robot into the buildings. Gypsy struggles to avoid the attacks while getting completely dominated by its opponent. The enemy eventually misses one of the attacks and slashes downwards into a building, giving Gypsy the chance to strike. However, Obsidian counters by using its missiles, causing explosions on the buildings nearby and hitting Mako's helicopter. Gypsy turns around and rushes towards the falling chopper, trying to save Mako. At the last moment, Mako sends a message to the headquarters, but eventually, the helicopter crashes down and explodes. Jake sees the explosions and runs out for Mako. Obsidian realizes that other Jaegers are closing by and chooses to run away into the ocean. Jake is greatly affected by his sister's death as he sees her picture in the Hall of Heroes, and soon he gets called to the meeting. They receive parts of the transmission despite the signal jam, and Dr. Herman reconstructs the information and finds the location of a decommissioned Jaeger manufacturing facility in Siberia. Jake decides to head there right away. Meanwhile, Xiao Industries has been granted full permission to deploy their drones. Dr. Newton goes home and begins talking with his girlfriend, which turns out to be a Kaju's brain that he calls Alice. He proceeds to join his mind with the alien creature as well. On the other side, Gypsy has arrived in front of the decommissioned Jaeger facility in Siberia. Suddenly, missiles hit them and the facility as the buildings are consumed by the explosions. It turns out that Obsidian has followed them here, and Gypsy immediately charges towards it, tackling the giant robot to the ground into a massive cliff. Obsidian recovers quickly and fires a laser beam, forcing Gypsy into a defensive position. With no other choice, Jake decides to break the ice underneath. Obsidian walks towards the giant hole, and suddenly a missile blasts. Gypsy takes the chance and charges, tackling Obsidian towards the surface and gaining the upper hand. But it does not take long before the enemy recovers. The two machines run towards each other, and Gypsy manages to cut Obsidian right across the chest and punches a hole in it, taking out its power core and finally ending the fight. Gypsy walks towards the Jaeger and opens its control hub, only to see that there's a brain inside it. They take it back to the headquarters and Herman confirms that the organic specimens are similar to kaiju, but it looks like they are engineered by humans. Furthermore, the technologies are very similar to Shao Industries. Herman plans to seek out Newton for answers, while Jake decides to warn their superiors about their new findings. At the same time, Li Wen's drones are brought toward the base, and the machines quickly begin to malfunction as organic materials burst out from them, transforming them into kaiju hybrids. The giant monsters make it onto the base and cause tremendous damage. On the other side, Herman finally finds Newton and tells the man about the killer drones from their company. Herman thinks that Li Wen has planned this and wants Newton to help him shut down the robots. They go to the control center and force all the scientists out, but Herman realizes that something is wrong as Newton begins activating more drones. Numerous kaiju hybrids arise from the oceans everywhere and try opening portals of the aliens' universe. It turns out that Newton's mind has been infected by the precursors. Luckily, Li Wen rushes in and shoots at Newton, forcing him to run away. She quickly disables her drones and reboots the system, destroying the kaiju brains inside the machines. The drones in the ocean are also disabled, causing the portal to close prematurely and cutting the kaiju in half. However, 3 kaijus make it out from the portals called Hakuja, Shrek Throne, and Raijin. They find out that they are all moving toward Mount Fuji. Herman speculates that the aliens are trying to use their blood, which reacts violently with the planet's core, to activate a ring of fire and destroy all life. They quickly gather up all the human resources they can by working together with Li Wen and repairing the Jaegers to prepare them for battle. The cadets are also put into giant machines with rockets on their backs. The robots are eventually launched into the sky and head toward the enemies. Meanwhile, the giant monsters wreak havoc in Tokyo. The 3 monsters regroup as they head towards the mountain, but the Jaegers quickly arrive to intercept them. Then the team charges at the monsters altogether. Saber Athena takes her sword and slashes Hakuja. Gypsy charges at Raijin and throws a punch, but the kaiju counters using tremendous power. Bracer Phoenix tries to attack using its guns but gets knocked over through the buildings and crashes into Guardian Bravo. With no other choice, Gypsy decides to use its gravity gun and topples buildings towards Raijin, but the kaiju refuses to go down. Hakuja tries to ambush the Jaeger, but Athena manages to kick the monster. Shrek Throne ambushes Athena, but Phoenix fires numerous rounds at the alien, pushing the kaiju back. Guardian Bravo rushes in to help as well, unleashing its massive whip. Hakuja appears to retreat, but the monster reemerges behind Bracer Phoenix. But they saw this coming, and they begin shooting at the kaiju, pushing it back. The Jaegers eventually gain the upper hand as they begin to win the battle. But Newton, standing far from the battle, helps the creatures by releasing drones. The machines begin to crawl onto the monsters and start fusing the 3 kaijus into a mega kaiju. The Jaegers all charge forward with their guns blazing, but the kaiju punches the ground, knocking all of them down. Guardian Bravo manages to resist the attack and charges furiously, but the kaiju throws the Jaeger into the buildings, destroying the robot completely. Saber Athena jumps in as well, but is cut into pieces by the monster's tail. Bracer Phoenix launches the giant mace toward the kaiju, but the alien starts ripping it apart. Luckily, the cadets eject in time and Amara survives. The kaiju continues towards the mountain, but Gypsy jumps out from the buildings and slashes the monster. Gypsy tries to hold off the kaiju, but the monster attacks using its tail, wounding Lambert in the process, and the robot gets knocked away. Newton mocks the human's failure, which captures kaju's attention, but surprisingly, the monster ignores him. Without a second pilot, Jake has no way to stop the enemy, but Amara shows up and decides to operate the machine with him. To their surprise, Li Wen appears as well by controlling the scrapper, and she brings one of the rockets for Gypsy so they can stop the kaiju. The rocket ignites and drags the Jaeger across the city and propels the giant machine upwards. Soon, the rocket loses the fuel, and they begin to free fall. Gypsy begins charging toward the kaiju, planning to crash into the enemy as it begins to catch on fire. Jake tries to use the escape pods, but the system begins to malfunction. But Scrapper drills into the Jaeger and offers them a way out. The Mega Kaiju finally makes it to the mountain's peak, but Gypsy flies in and smashes into the monster. The kaiju dies as the monster's lower body is destroyed. Jake escapes alongside Amara thanks to the Scrapper, and the two celebrate finally. Sometime later, Newton is captured inside a facility, while Jake walks in and decides to attack the aliens in their universe. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like and feel free to share and subscribe to the channel.